Amongst all the problems that we have today, I would say one of the worst, if not the worst, is nihilism. Now you might wonder, really, nihilism over everything else that has been going on? And I would say yes, because nihilism allows all the other problems to happen. It at worst becomes yet another source of evil, and at best it allows evil to pass unchallenged. And you see it everywhere today. In every discussion, in every debate, you see people who seem to have this "so what" attitude, this "it doesn't matter" argument. Let's say, for example, we are talking about that problem that has been going on Twitch, where some rather inappropriate content is being streamed on the platform. And this becomes a problem because Twitch doesn't require you to be an adult to create an account. So we have underage people who are potentially being exposed to inappropriate content. So when we have this discussion, lo and behold, we have people saying, "So what?" It's not like children can't find this kind of content elsewhere on the internet, so why bother complaining about this? It's not gonna make any difference. Because this is one of the different flavors of argument these people like to employ. They like to justify one problem with another problem. This problem exists, therefore this other problem has justification to exist as well. As another example, let's say we are talking about protecting yourself online. Say we are talking about how to protect your data as you browse the internet. Let's say we have this very interesting tutorial on how to install a custom profile onto your internet browser so you can browse the internet more safely, so you are not exposed to, say, pop-ups, to malware, to spyware. Inevitably, there will be people saying, there is no point to doing that. Bro, the government already has all of your data. They have your name, they have your social security, they have your face. Why bother trying to protect yourself? This is yet another commonly used excuse by these people. The situation is already bad, therefore, why bother trying to prevent it from getting worse? What? Yeah, these were words, definitely. These were words spoken by people, apparently. Or let's say we are talking about the use of AI, specifically the use of AI regarding art. How some people are justifiably unsatisfied by how AI seems to be taking over art in general. How more and more artistic creativity seems to be devalued because you can just write a few prompts into an AI program and they will create art for you. Or even worse, how some companies use real art, they steal real art to train their AIs. And again, lo and behold, there will be people saying, what's the point in even trying to fight against that, because AI is going to take over anyway. There's no point in even trying. And now you are just Napoleon, you are just sitting there and saying, there's nothing we can do, right? Now these people have given up and they demand you give up as well. But here's the thing. Despite how critical I may sound about these people, I really don't think most of them are acting out of ill intent. I don't think they are bad people. Quite the contrary, actually. I think deep down they are good people. But I also think they have a fundamental misunderstanding about the dynamic between good and evil. So let's talk about that. Let me start by asking you a question. Why do you clean your house? No, seriously, why? Why do you do it? Well, you might say, because I don't want to have my house dirty. I'd rather live in a clean environment. But why bother? Why bother cleaning your house if you know the dust and all the filth is just going to be back in a few days? Again, you might say, because there will be consequences to not cleaning my house. There will be consequences to living in a dirty environment. I might get sick, my family might get sick. Aha. So there's the point I'm trying to make. Let me ask you another question. when you clean your house, do you hope for a day when you will finally defeat all the filth and all the dust in your house? Do you hope for a day when you will clean your house in such a way that you will never have to clean it again because you have defeated the filth once and for all? No, of course not. That's ridiculous. That's not how that works. You know that no matter how much you clean your house, in a few days you will have to clean it again. That's just how things are. Dust accumulates over time, and mold accumulates over time if you let it. You understand that there will never be a day when you will be able to stop cleaning your house, but you do it anyway. You periodically clean your house because you understand that not doing it will bring consequences. That's the dynamic between good and evil right there. When people complain about something that is wrong, it's not that they are trying to change the world by themselves. They are not trying to fix the situation by complaining. They are just doing their part to keep the house clean. They are cleaning their corner of the house, basically. And I mean, sure, some people probably are trying to change the world by themselves, but seriously, don't try to do that. That's an impossible task. You are never going to defeat evil, just as you are never going to defeat the filth in your house. It's always going to be there. Evil is a natural part of this world. I would even say it's a necessary part of this world. Life would be boring without evil. Good wouldn't be good without evil. If you set yourself the objective of trying to defeat evil by yourself, two things might happen. Either you will become nihilistic, which is what I am talking about on this video, or you will find yourself becoming evil. So there is no winning going down that path. But again, it's not that people are trying to change the world by themselves. They are just doing their part in opposing evil, no matter how little. And if everybody did that, maybe things would be better. If people didn't waste time trying to justify why there is no point fighting evil, maybe things wouldn't be so bad. But then you might say, well, even if I understand that it's not about defeating evil, it's only about opposing it, there is no way for us to oppose it because evil is just too strong. Evil has become resourceful. Evil now has access to technology. They have access to so many tools. There's nothing we can do. Let me tell you something. And before I continue, I think it's important to mention two things. The first one is, I don't consider myself an optimistic. As a matter of fact, I have been called pessimistic a few times in the past. I believe I'm doing better today, but still, the fact that I can see the silver lining, that I can find a hopeful perspective on the subject is very telling. And the second thing is, I am not a religious person either. You may choose to see what I'm about to say through the perspective of a certain religious belief, if you choose. If that makes you more comfortable, then that's okay, but that's not where I'm coming from. What I'm going to say now is just what I have found to be the truth, based on the things that I have seen so far. And here it is. Evil is weak. Evil is short-sighted. Evil is self-destructive. That's it right there. Left by itself, evil will destroy itself in the end. That's just how it is. And sure, sometimes it takes a little bit too long for it to destroy itself. Sometimes in the process of destroying itself, it ends up bringing harm to innocent people. But that's when good people have to rise up to oppose evil, to help evil destroy itself. And sometimes we land the killing blow, sometimes we end it temporarily by ourselves with our own hands, but more often than not we just oppose it. We just fight against it for long enough until it eventually fumbles and destroys itself. Because evil can't possibly fight against itself while also fighting against good. It's just too much. And we can do it in different ways. Sometimes it's a dictator who needs to be dethroned. And sometimes it's just a shady company who needs to be boycotted. But regardless of how you display your defiance, there is always a way, big or small, to show defiance, to stand in the way of evil. The only way for evil to win is if we let it, if we stand out of its way and allow it to spread. And that's kind of what we're doing. Every time someone takes their time to argue that there is no point in fighting against evil, these are the people who choose to step aside, to allow evil to pass unchecked. And they fail to realize that in doing so, they are contributing to make things worse. So if you find yourself being nihilistic, if you find yourself often saying that it doesn't matter, as I said earlier, I really don't think you are a bad person. I honestly think you are a good person. Deep down, you wished things were better. You hoped things weren't so messed up. But in doing so, you met this impossible challenge. You realized that you are powerless to defeat evil. You are powerless to make things better by yourself. And that's a very logical conclusion because that's true. You can't do anything by yourself. But what you fail to realize is you don't have to. That's not how that works. There will never be a day when the world is free of evil. It will always be there. It needs to be there. But we shouldn't use this to justify standing out of its way. We shouldn't just allow it to run free, to spread as much as it wants. You should always clean your house. Not because you hope to defeat the filth in your house, but because you want to stop the filth from growing so much to the point it may cause irreversible damage. Now you might still say I'm being optimistic here. Evil just doesn't destroy itself in the end. And if that's what you think, I encourage you to take a closer look at any evil person that you know. And you know who I'm talking about. I'm talking owners of big corporations, I'm talking politicians. Take a good look at them and tell me if they aren't constantly trying to destroy each other. Tell me if we don't have owners of big corporations who constantly make bad decisions, one after the other. Everybody's warning them, don't do that, that's going to be a waste of money. But they do it anyway. Because in their small minds, they only care about the present. They fail to realize they are losing more profit in the future. They only care about profits in the present. Because remember, evil is short-sighted. Evil sacrifices the future for the sake of the present. Take a look at politicians and tell me if they aren't at best trying to put each other in jail or at worst trying to unalive each other. And I regret that I have to use this word, but you know how YouTube is. Some people say they would be happy if they had all this power, all this money, but seriously, take a good look at these people and imagine yourself there. Imagine yourself constantly living in fear because at any moment someone even worse than you might destroy you if you give them the chance. And tell me if that's a life you would like for yourself. I really have this problem where I tend to sound very critical, I guess sometimes angry, when I speak about certain subjects, and I regret that. I wish I could sound more friendly, I guess, but I get very worked up very easily about certain subjects. And it's so difficult to not do that here because the opponent is so weak. And I say opponent, not enemy, because I don't think we have enemies. And if you get that reference, then I just want to say, you're a cool person. The only way for the adversary to win is if we let it. And yet, sadly, that's what so many people are doing, because they have convinced themselves that they can't win. And they fail to realize they don't have to win. That's not the point. There is a point to voicing your defiance. There is a point to opposing evil, no matter how small that opposition is. So what do we do then? How can we stand in the way of evil? And just to be sure, I don't claim to have any authority over the subject. At the end of the day, I'm just some guy on the internet who spends way too much time thinking. But if you would like to know how I think people should focus on the little things, because in the end, the little things make all the difference. Maybe don't use a software or don't support a company which is known to steal art from real artists to train their AI. Even though that software is very practical, there are other ways to get what you need, which don't involve supporting an evil company. Maybe don't use AI yourself. Pay a few bucks to an artist, help an artist who is just trying to make a living. Consider canceling that subscription if you notice they are getting more and more exploitative in their selling strategy. If they keep increasing your monthly fee, if they are now adding ads to your software, to your paid software, despite the fact that you are paying monthly to use that. Looking at you, Netflix. Going back to my previous video, have the courage to say no during a job interview if you realize the company you are applying to work for is one of those companies who is just going to exploit you in any way they can. If they expect you to never be sick, if they expect you to work overtime with no extra pay, or if it's one of those companies who expect you to do evil things for them, if they ask you to lie to customers, to sell faulty products, or to fool customers into signing abusive contracts. Don't let people think evil is normal, evil is acceptable. Say no when you have the chance to say it. Because that's one of the biggest problems today. We have so many good people doing evil things because they have been convinced that you have to do that in order to survive. You have to exploit people here and there. You have to steal from others in order to succeed. So when you don't protect yourself, when you allow people to take advantage of you, not only you are bringing harm upon yourself, but indirectly you are allowing harm to reach other people later. Because you are letting these people think that taking advantage of others is okay. It's not. It's the little things. I really do believe they make all the difference. At the end of the day, I think our fight is simple. Not an easy one, not by a long shot, but simple. We don't have to win. All we have to do is keep fighting. And that's why we are invincible. As always, thank you for watching until this far. I hope you got something useful out of this strange rant. Have yourself a wonderful day and I'll see you next time. See ya.